We'll begin with the big one in Serie A. Juventus claimed a 1-0 home win over Inter in the Derby d'Italia. Francisco Conceição scored the only goal, assisted by Randall Colomuani. McKennie and Weah both started. McKennie in the midfield, Weah right back. And Weah caught your attention for his work rate defensively.
Yeah, a lot to talk about here. I just wanted to highlight this defensive work. And look, I know that Weah is now kind of playing a right back type of position, and so it's his job to get back. But his tracking back to make a tackle, save a goal, I love it. Now, again, keep in mind that Tim Weah, notwithstanding the fact that he was, the architect of the demise of the U.S. men's national team in last year's Copa America, and ultimately got Greg Berhalter fired. I think that Tim Weah over the last cycle has been the most consistent attacking player for the U.S. men's national team. I prefer him as more of a right winger, especially when you talk about the front three. I'm not saying he can't play in the right side in a back four, and the right side certainly in a back five. I just prefer him as a winger. But that he's getting on the field and that he's showing in that moment that he is willing to work back. You should show that clip to everybody, and certainly show it to all your attacking players that, roll their eyes and scoff and pout and do all the different things that attacking players often do when they didn't get the pass or somebody looked them off or the pass was cut out. He got back and he did his job. And in doing so, he endears himself, obviously, to those of us on the outside, fans, people watching, but also to his teammates, that he is willing to do what amounts to some really dirty work. And while it wasn't a goal and it wasn't a highlight type of moment, I did want to highlight Tim Weah in that moment. He's much more than just that moment, but it exemplifies the way that he is playing that position and obviously the player that he is. But there's a lot more to talk about when it comes to this team.
Next up for Juventus, they are away to PSV in the Champions League, looking to protect a 2-1 first leg lead. Remember, Weston McKennie scored a great goal in that first leg. AC Milan this past weekend, 1-0 home win over Verona. Santi Jimenez with the goal. That's 2 in 2 games for him in Serie A. Yunus Musa started. Christian Pulisic did not. He came on as a sub in the second half.
So I remember last week the guys were yelling at me over there on the X machine about not highlighting Santi Jimenez. All right, so I'll start it out with Santi. Well done. Congratulations. Bravo. Okay, muy bien, my friend. And it's a great start for him. And again, we had talked about Milan in the window really improving in terms of the players that they got in. So this is great. I'm not worried about the fact that Christian Pulisic is not starting. I think it's a nice rest for him, and it should be said also Leal is not starting, and so that's a pretty nice bench of firepower to be able to look to. Ultimately, if this was the most important game, I think Christian Pulisic is starting for this team, but he still showed that when he comes on the field, good things happen.
I agree with you, but the Pulisic discourse on social media has been interesting the last few days. No matter how well American player does, no matter how well he's treated, U.S. fans are always waiting for the other shoe to drop and for that anti-American bias to creep in. And the fact that he was the first attacking player subbed out against Feyenoord in the first leg last week and didn't start this game, you're already seeing some murmurs of like, well, Milan have a Portuguese coach now in Sergio Conceição, and Rafael Leão and João Felix are both Portuguese, so he's going to show favoritism to them, and Pulisic is going to pay the price for that. You also have a prominent Mexican player in the mix, so now you have Mexican fans watching AC Milan games who are prone to criticize Pulisic's performances. So there's now a little bit of a weird energy in this AC Milan Pulisic social media discourse.
Yeah, I mean, suck it up, Buttercup. As an American player, you realize that there always is going to be an element. But I don't think and I'm not talking about the Dempseys and those types of players, but in the current era, I don't think that there is anybody more so than Christian Pulisic, and I think Weston McKennie, that have not completely, but have taken that attitude that you're an American, that it's just baggage, it follows you everywhere, and the biases, whether they're admitted or not, that come with that, and have not completely thrown it away, but done a lot to dissolve that. And I do think that there is a recognition that they have become great players. I'm talking about Weston McKennie and Christian Pulisic, that just happen to be American as opposed to great American players.
AC Milan will look to overturn a 1-0 deficit against Feyenoord at home this week. We move to the English Championship. I'm going to group these two together. Josh Sargent scored again for Norwich in their 1-1 draw away to Hull City. That's 5 goals in 5 games for him. While Daryl Dike came on as a sub for West Brom in their 1-1 draw away to Millwall. His first appearance since February of 2024 as he rehabs from another ACL injury.
Yeah, and he got this goal, and this just shows you what the incredible mental fortitude that this player has. I like to think it's because of the mutant gene, but the reality is that at a time when a squirrel had come on the field and was running and taking all of the attention and obviously could have, confused the players on the field. No. Ball came in, and Josh Sargent does what he's been doing better than anybody, and certainly better than any American, put the ball in the back of the net. And this bodes well for him when it comes to the national team and the camps coming up. And I love the fact that he is healthy and that he is out there. And when those opportunities come, there is a ruthlessness that has crept into Josh Sargent's game. Again, this is just in a club situation. We will see if he is able to translate it to the national team. But as I'm sure you're about to allude to, we are still in search of that person that on a continual basis is going to provide that ruthlessness up top from a U.S. men's national team perspective.
38 championship goals for Norwich by Josh Sargent. That's the most that any player has scored for a single club since Sargent made his debut in 2022. So he's been terrific for them. And you mentioned this search for a center forward. Once upon a time, Rob Stone proclaimed Daryl Dike that guy. I'll never forget that when he yelled that on the air. And obviously injuries have gotten in the way since then, but good to see him back on the field.
Yeah, so Daryl Dike makes his way back onto the field and, back into the hearts and minds of more than just Rob Stone, because the potential that Daryl Dike has, and certainly had, we'll see if he still has it, is relative to bringing something different, a different type of dimension to that number 9 striker position. And when he first burst on the scene, it was, oh my God, look out. This is a guy who is a steamroller type of player, and in a much more traditional type of sense, hold-up type of player, uses his size really, really well. Certainly has a touch and can finish. But to your point, while the injuries derailed him, if he comes back in the mix, he provides a different look for Pochettino up top. And I think we're a long way from there, but knock on wood, he continues to grow and stays healthy, because adding him to the mix, and we are so desperate as American fans for somebody to do that. That's why the Brandon Vasquez of the world, we get lit up and in an excited fashion look at these players. And so fingers crossed, the return of Daryl Dike makes him back in the mix, but I'll believe it when I see it.
We know Ricardo Pepi is out for the season.
Yep.
Dest and Tillman sidelined as well. But an American shined against PSV in the Eredivisie this past weekend. Paxton Aronson got one of the goals for Utrecht in their 2-2 draw away to PSV. He becomes the third youngest American to reach 10 career Eredivisie goals, behind only Ricardo Pepi and Michael Bradley.
So, yeah, I mean, Paxton Aronson, obviously of the Aronson clan, hasn't gotten as much attention as his brother, and yet I find ourselves over the last few months and over the last year starting to talk about him more. I don't know if he is legit relative to the U.S. men's national team yet, and I don't know if he's ever going to be. But so far, so good, and certainly it has to be said, if you're looking to score goals in the game of soccer, Holland's a good place, and it has been traditionally over the years.
Utrecht in third place, PSV in second. They've been surpassed by Ajax. Quite the race in the Eredivisie.
This Ajax team coming on strong. Evidently, they're pretty good. So we'll see if order has kind of been restored when it comes to Ajax back on top over there, and how long that lasts.
We go to Germany next. Borussia Dortmund's struggles continue. They suffered a 2-0 defeat away to last place Bochum. Gio Reyna was the 5th and final sub for Dortmund. He came on in the 80th minute.
Well, I have a question for you and a question for our viewers and our listeners out there. Has there ever been an American player who has elicited more angst and excuses and ultimately, I guess, belief from American soccer fans, and I include myself in that group, than Gio Reyna? Uh, and I guess, answering my own question, I don't think there is, but I think that is actually a testament to just how talented we have, and I think still continue to believe he is. But is he worthy of this? Because I put this out on the old X machine out there, and I was interested to hear many of the responses of people that say, no, he's not worthy of this. And some of it gets into the personal situation with him and his family, all that kind of stuff. I've kind of moved past that, but just looking at it from a soccer perspective, if our hopes and dreams and all of that support that we have put behind Gio Reyna, had we put it behind somebody else, where do you think that we'd be? And ultimately, I guess the question goes back to, do you think that Gio Reyna is worth it?
I do. He is that talented. He provides a different level of vision and touch that I don't think most other U.S. players have. So I understand all the angst. There has to be some club at a decent level somewhere in the world where this kid can go to and play regularly. It's nuts to me that he's stuck in this situation. But yeah, I agree with you. It's remarkable. And
yeah, I mean, he has been given the benefit of the doubt time after time after, because there will be other players having gone through the same situation that we or American soccer fans would have just said, maybe it's just not that good. Maybe it's his attitude. Maybe what he was given too much at an early age. And I know when I asked that question, I got a few Freddie Adu responses. Now, the Freddie Adu phenomenon was not just relative to the talent that he had, but the talent that he had at a young age, at 14. So I think it's an apples and oranges type of comparison. I would disagree with anybody that throws Freddie Adu. And yes, we had belief and hope, but it very, very quickly became apparent relative to Freddie Adu that he wasn't everything that the hype machine had made him out to be. And certainly since has been proven that. But at one point, Gio Reyna, it has to be on you. And when I say you, I mean Gio Reyna, to fix the situation, whether it's the changing of a team or ultimately when you are at a team, whether it's here or anyplace else, you got to do what needs to be done to be worthy of all of the support. And when all is said and done, Gio Reyna can never say, despite the difficulties that we went through and all the craziness, that he hasn't been supported by a lot of people. And like I said, been given the benefit of the doubt.
Now, Dortmund are home to Sporting in the Champions League with a 3-0 aggregate lead. So in theory, that is a chance for Niko Kovac to rotate and get a look at some different players. It actually would not shock me if Gio Reyna pops up in the starting lineup of this match coming up.
I mean, at this point, you'll take it where you can get it, right?
You like that clip? Well, my State of the Union podcast drops twice a week right here on my very own YouTube page. The only way to stay up to date is to hit that subscribe button down below. Size the day, and see you soon.